Good afternoon. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to review your work on prompt 4 of task 2. Now this one is an elementary literacy. They're all very similar. Prompt 4 generally has to do with deepening student learning. There are variations to what that is called, but generally speaking, that's what it is. There are two parts to prompt 4. We have 4A, 4B. 4A is about eliciting and building on student responses. So basically, explaining how you elicited, how you got students to respond. So that has to do with, of course, asking questions. Building on their responses. You want and with the purpose of promoting thinking and applying, in this case, the essential literacy strategy and related skills. If you look at other handbooks, this would be different based on the subject-specific emphasis. For example, this is a prompt 4 for deepening student learning during instruction. This is for the visual arts, and it says explain how you elicited student responses to promote thinking, and then it goes into their abilities to express and understand meaning through interpreting art, developing works. So all of this is their subject-specific emphasis. So it's that subject-specific emphasis, or the SSE, we've talked about so many times. That is part of prompt 4. If we look at your Making Good Choices document on the section on deepening student learning, which has to do with prompt 4 from task 2, it says that you need to choose video clips that show how you elicit and build on student responses. It does need to be related to your central focus for your student learning. You need to be asking questions for a variety of levels of thinking and show how you probe for responses that help the students get involved in deep thinking and conceptual understanding. So you don't want to choose a clip that shows you doing most of the talking. You need to be drawing those students in, getting them to respond. So choosing a clip where you have a discussion would be much preferable than choosing a clip where you're reading a story, giving an explanation, or a lecture. This is the rubric that goes along with 4A of this 4A of task 2. It's rubric 8, deepening student learning. So if you do most of the talking, you're going to get a level 1. If you have any content inaccuracies, don't do that. You'll definitely get a level 1. If you're just primarily asking surface level questions, for example, if you're just getting student responses that are either right or wrong, then you're just hitting lower level blooms. That's what we mean by surface level questions. To get a level 3, you want to make sure that you elicit student responses that support, and then of course whatever your SSE is. In this instance, this is the essential literacy strategy and related skills. This is a literacy handbook. So they give elicit students responses to support use of this or that. To get a 4, you want to not just elicit responses, but you also want to build on those to get the students to clarify or extend. And you need to be doing it for both your literacy strategy and your related skills. This is for literacy. Someone else from a different handbook is going to have something similar. Let's take a look at that similar to that. Go down here to Rubric 8 in the Art Handbook, and you can see same thing, elicits and builds responses, and then they give interpret, develop, and they're having them do 2 of these, 2 of the 3. Okay. All right, so going back to this handbook, you can see that in Level 4, the candidate facilitates interactions so that they can evaluate their own ability. So to get a 5, you have to have all of 4, which means you need to have successfully elicited responses from the students, built on their responses, and then you want to get the students talking to each other. So for example, if you have students, you have a student respond, say Jim responds, and you want Sue to respond, then you would say, okay, Jim, do you have something to say to Sue? What do you think about Sue's answer? That sort of thing, where you're getting the students to actually just respond to one another. They need to be able in those interactions to begin to evaluate their own abilities to apply the SSE, whatever that may be. You have, of course, your URLP, which you need to be looking at. Again, that's the Understanding Rubric Level Progressions. They give examples of what a 3 looks like and examples of what it looks like at a level 4 and what it looks like at a level 5. So again, this prompt is scored with 2 rubrics. 4A is scored with rubric 8, and then 4B is scored with rubric 9. Looking at this sample, this student made a 4. She's got, though, an excellent pattern to how she's done this, and of course a 4 is a very good score. So what she's done is that she's started with bolding her rubric language. She makes a claim here, as you can see in video 1, blah, blah, blah. So she makes a claim that she has done this thing of eliciting and building on student responses. Then she provides evidence by describing what goes on in the video. Of course, the primary source of evidence is the video itself, but the commentary provides the context for which things happen, and it also gives an explanation to the score. She relates it to the subject-specific emphasis. Again, she hits on subject-specific emphasis again with the essential literacy strategy. Next, she talks about how she built on student responses. She's using rubric language, and she's bolding that rubric language. She gives examples. She's got at least 2 pieces of evidence. She makes a claim. Then she has an explanation, and there's evidence. That is key to this type of analytical writing. You want to have a claim. You want to support your claim with evidence and explanation. So when you get to 4B, 4B is scored with rubric 9. So let's take a second and look at rubric 9. Rubric 9 is different for every single handbook. The only thing similar about rubric 9 is that everybody is dealing with their own subject-specific pedagogy. In other words, they're focusing on what in your content of what you're teaching, what is a best practice or that should be occurring in the classroom. We're looking at the literacy one. They're all just a little bit different. Here's the performing arts. Let me pull it up here for you. The performing arts, rubric 9, has to do with modeling, but it's not the same type of modeling, of course. They wouldn't be modeling the same thing. Your visual arts is also modeling. So that's a big part of it. There is in, for example, the elementary math, secondary math, they have to use representations. I know that in secondary history, it's important to have students building and supporting arguments. So it's just going to be specific to people's own handbooks. So when we're taking a look at Rubric 9 in the literacy handbook is where I want to go back to. There's quite a bit of specificity about the essential literacy strategy. So first of all, you want to make sure that the students are engaged in it. So they make a real difference between you having the students participate in it without actually being engaged. And that's actually done in an earlier rubric when they discuss in rubric 7 the difference between participating and being engaged. So if a participant might just be copying notes, a student who's engaged is thinking about their notes, they're reflecting, they're doing something with those notes. So there's a little bit of difference. With the level 3, the candidate is going to model the essential literacy strategy, and there are limited opportunities for practice. For a level 4, the candidate is going to explicitly teach the students how to apply the strategy, and they have opportunities for guided practice. Now the key here is the video evidence. It has to be part of the video evidence. You have to be able to say, at timestamp such and such, you're going to see this. So you're going to explicitly teach how to apply this strategy. To get a 5, you have to do the 4, and you have to explicitly teach not just how to apply the strategy, but when to apply it, and how to do it, when to do it in meaningful context. All of this is explained in your Understanding Rubric Level Progression, which again is here, and you really need to read this for content specifics. That gives a lot of information and examples. How to get a 3, how to distinguish a 3 from a 4, how to distinguish a 4 from a 5. As far as checking off your work to see how you do, I like students to go about it this way. They're going to use this little checklist for each of their things. They can pull this from their, this one is for literacy. So you just go through and to think, okay, did I elicit student responses to support the use of the literacy strategy or related skill? If so, where is that? And you put the timestamp. Did I elicit and build student responses? And this is for the literacy strategy, related skills. You put the timestamp. So the difference here is between eliciting the response, and this one has to do with building on the response. And then here, facilitating the interaction. So important takeaways. You need to remember that prompt 4 in task 2 is scored by 2 different rubrics. It's a little confusing because generally speaking, a prompt is usually scored by only one rubric. In this situation, it's scored by 2. So don't cheat one part of the prompt. A lot of times people just see prompt 4. They're thinking of prompt 4 as one thing. So they think, well, I don't have much to say for 4A. I can say a lot in 4B. But the problem is 4A and 4B are scored separately. So you have to do an equally sufficient job on 4A and 4B because they're scored by 2 different rubrics. What this means is that prompt 4 in task 2 itself is worth 10 points. 4A is 5 points and 4B is 5 points. So if you think about it that way, it's like having 2 prompts instead of just 1. So it's 2 out of your 15 rubrics in that one prompt. That makes it pretty important. So be sure that you are thinking about this evidence ahead of time, that you're looking very carefully through your video evidence to find what you need. I hope you have a nice day.